Welcome everybody to our daily webinar. Sun is just coming through 8 a.m. Brooklyn time. Today we're talking digitalization or digitization. I'm not sure if we're going to drill on that one. Which one is English-wise correct? I would not have a clue because I hardly speak any English. But that we all know what that means, right? Digital, and particularly in the context of COVID, remember that offer number 2, the second offer of UNDP, the more developmental offer, has this digital thing like in one of the 4 pillars, right? So again, the evaluation office is on the dot and on the spot. We've seen this before. They choose their subjects well. They are not always limited to COVID, but certainly they are related to. And this time again, we look about crisis countries. I mean, how digitalization and crisis countries connect, but knowing that this digital business is has our spotlight in this COVID day and age. So I'm looking forward. I mean, there could be quite a few exciting things in there if Marina and Tina are doing well. But maybe Oscar, you want to kick us off?
Yes, thank you very much.
Just as usual, ladies and gentlemen, questions in the chat, right? At the end, we have Q&A, and any Qs that are not A'd will be Q&A'd afterwards in writing. So welcome, everybody. Oscar.
Thank you very much, Jan Thomas. As you said, the Independent Evaluation Office has conducted this rapid evidence assessment based on evaluations done in the past of UNDP support to countries in crisis. We have gathered in the ERC, in the Evaluation Resource Centers, more than 5,000 evaluations, out of which we have selected 60 of them and delved more in depth in 42 of them to extract lessons on what can we learn about UNDP's experience in supporting countries to recover from crisis with the use of information and communication technologies. Today we'll have my colleague Tina Tordjman-Nebe, who ably led this exercise and will present to you a few lessons from this paper together with our colleagues from Marina from the country office. So over to you, Tina. Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar. And hello, colleagues. I'm very happy to be here. So working on a lessons learned paper from UNDP's digitalization support in 2020 during the pandemic was super fascinating and quite rewarding, actually, as we were all accelerating reliance on teleworking, e-learning, and the vaccine research and virus tracings going on. It really felt like something timely. But of course, the issue is that the most recent work and the fancier work around drones and blockchains and maybe some of digital finance hasn't really been picked up yet in evaluations because we come in a little late. So what I'm going to speak today is more based on e-governance work, electoral support, digital health and disaster preparedness, which came out as the big 4, where we did have information. And I'm also bringing in some information from development context because we didn't have all that much from crisis contexts. So my colleague Landry and I reviewed some 60 evaluations from the ERC, and we cited 42 particularly relevant ones. And of course, the aim is to improve learning and decision-making in the context of COVID. So hopefully this will be relevant to you. We came up with 8 lessons. Lesson 1 and 8 are about the evidence base itself. And they basically say that not a lot gets documented in the sphere of digitalization. And this really hinders decision-making when it comes to scale up and replication in particular. Lessons 2 and 5 are about meaningful connectivity and how digital solutions have to be embedded in strong national ecosystems or roadmaps for digitalization. And they also have to consider local readiness and culture. And all of this takes time. So digitalization is not a quick thing. It can save you time in the longer run, but it's not initially quick. Lesson 3 is about the private sector and the collaboration that is needed there, and also raises some of the ethical dilemmas. And lessons 4, 5, and 6 are what I want to talk about with a bit more depth. Basically, these lessons represent the two main stories that emerged from the evaluation data. And story 1 tells us about some of the key ingredients of successful UNDP support and some of the failures when those are missing. And story 2 tells us about the lingering abyss, the widening gap, if we don't get this right. So lesson 4 says that yes, we need technology, but above all, we need the talent. We need the capabilities to effectively use, manage, and maintain technology. So there were numerous examples in the evaluations reviewed of, for instance, online portals that were created and then not updated because HR were lacking, or of digital access points for e-governance services that had broken hardware or no access to the internet, and there was no one around to fix this. Another one was climate information from UNDP supported early warning systems that were poorly disseminated from the district to the sub-county to the parish to the farmer. So basically they were ineffective, and this was due to human error or omission. So the bottom line here then is that digital initiatives which simultaneously also invest in capabilities are the ones that are more likely to succeed. And another aspect of talent, which is really important, is that UNDP's capacity to bring in global and regional expertise or national expertise to address local challenges really gives UNDP a lot of influence to design the solutions. And there were a lot of examples from the Central Europe region around e-governance, where data protection was very strongly brought in by UNDP support. Other examples, for instance, from Jordan, where in a social assistance program, UNDP didn't only just bring in blockchain, but also brought in a real focus on the most vulnerable and the no one left behind lens. So this is really basic, but incredibly important. We cannot stop as UNDP at procuring technology and building solutions, but we have to make sure that there's someone around who can use and update over time. Another success factor for digitalization support is risk-taking and learning from failure. So one of the influencing functions of UNDP is to nudge governments into going that direction and basically making themselves vulnerable. There was a good example from Kazakhstan, the Digital Agent Initiative, where citizens are enabled to assess the quality of public services and also to report back on inaccessible buildings, for instance, so bringing in a disability lens. And a clear lesson for UNDP internally is that it needs to tolerate experimentation, even if it's prone to failure. And Marina will tell us a bit more about that later. But it's key to try something, assess it. So evaluation again is important, and then learn and move on. So there are good examples from hackathons in Afghanistan, Rwanda, and Bosnia and Herzegovina that generated ideas to fight corruption, address youth employment and other issues. And in Honduras, UNDP partnered with social entrepreneurs to develop orthopedic hand prostheses in 3D to support the reintegration of young victims of violence. So working with youth and local innovators sends a really important message here, as opposed to flying in a digital solution from the global north and having it somehow tested in the global south. Finally, the flip side of the story. It is clear from the evaluations reviewed that access to digital solutions is skewed, and more so in crisis settings. It is the younger, the more affluent city dwellers that benefit, and usually they are Anglophone, they are male, and they don't have disabilities. On gender, the evidence is more mixed, although evaluations do say that it is typically harder to reach women and girls with digital solutions. In Afghanistan, a biometric voter verification machine system was introduced in the 2018-2019 elections, and that reportedly deterred female voter turnout. But there are good examples too. For instance, in India, a network called EVIN was rolled out, which is an electronic vaccine intelligence system that digitalizes the country's entire vaccine stock to reduce waste and stockouts. And as part of that process, women were trained to contribute to the real-time management information system via smartphone. And so through that program, the IT skills of women were enhanced, and that also included older women. And this is clearly an important one as we think of recovery from COVID and the upcoming vaccinations. So some of the hallmarks of programs that can close or at least not widen the digital divide are to, at design, consider the most vulnerable, those with least access, and to make sure that materials are accessible, so available in local languages or in voice-assisted technology, for instance, and also to use inclusive language and icons. So as we ramp up support to digitalization in the context of the COVID response and recovery, let's keep those 3 T's in mind: the technology, talent, and troublemakers, and let's mind the gap and avoid widening the digital divide. And with that, over to you, Marina, to tell us a bit more about what this looked like in practice in Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Good morning, good afternoon, colleagues. I'm very happy to be here. Greetings from Sarajevo. I rely once again on Jan Thomas' strict time management support because I can get carried away once I start to speak about our experiences. So thank you for this opportunity. We will present very shortly just a glimpse of our experiences when it comes to leveraging technology and digital to address some of the most urgent challenges brought by the COVID-19 pandemic in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Just a first example is the collective innovation challenge or crowdsourcing campaign. Where UNDP, together with the Accelerator Lab in the country, we actually created in less than 3 days a digital platform that was inviting innovative ideas from the public for everyone out there who can offer solutions and who can offer different ways of dealing with the consequences of the COVID-19 crisis in the country. We've opened different perspectives of what could be immediate solutions of the current challenges faced by the public service delivery, public spaces, social interactions, and this, of course, relied very much on nudging how can we use digital and technology in that sense, but not limiting to. In that process, we leveraged our broad network of partners. We brought universities with a lot of young students behind, private sector, international community. Just in a matter of days, actually, we got more than 30 different institutional partners and stakeholders to support that idea. So it became a national campaign. And we received more than 100 innovative solutions and ideas. The IT sector actually stepped in to develop the platform absolutely in good spirit and free of any cost. So this is really an example of great collaboration and how basically through this digital platform, we reached out to so many people in the country and kind of invited positive solutions and innovative thinking. Actually, more than 80% of those 100 solutions across different areas were coming from young people. And I think the contribution and partnership with the university was a very important factor in that sense. So I could speak more about the ideas. We selected winners. And actually what was important for us and still is at the moment is, what do we do with those ideas? Many of them were presented to the private sector. We presented them to the international community, all the partners. Some 10 ideas are at the moment receiving kind of mentorship support by private sector or economic development initiatives to grow those ideas into more mature products. And in addition, 6 winning ideas that have been selected, all of them, including some digital solutions, are actually supported through UNDP regional network to also grow their proposals into very concrete products and thus contribute to addressing the challenges. Actually, this improved the way we, reached out very quickly, engaged with young people, leveraged talent and, genius from communities, from society as a whole. And we didn't stop there. It was not just like okay, let's do it. It sounds good. But at the moment, we're actually working with partners from the IT sector, upgrading this digital platform with the idea to capture, as a storyline, what's happening with each idea. This is also a resource hub available there, out there for those who may be interested to support it. And we're, as I said, upgrading this platform to also enable capturing progress of, what's happening with each idea, who is supporting it. And I think another important aspect to mention is, it was a very fast initiative. It was countrywide. It was a movement. But in a way, we brought on board also institutions and government. And I think it was important at that time that this innovation challenge on this platform kind of de-risked the entire undertaking, and then kind of UNDP and partners just facilitated this dialogue, and then we are kind of guaranteeing, even if some not so good ideas or some ideas may fail, it's still worth calling out and reaching out for collective intelligence and solutions. So now this digital platform actually is going to be at the heart of a new open innovation digital platform in Bosnia and Herzegovina that we're going to build upon and kind of capitalize and collaborate with young people and all innovative minds out there. Another example that I wanted to share for the remaining time on the next slide is something that we did in collaboration with authorities in the country. Extremely, let me start, extremely complex governance structure, multi-layered governance. So the general level of digitalization in the public sector and reliability of data in the public sector is not so well developed. So from COVID-19 and crisis perspective viewpoint, actually UNDP managed for just a couple of months to make a leap in one of our partner institutions in Canton Sarajevo, from paper-based crisis communication to entirely digital platform to monitor COVID-19 in the canton. So it's a first of time digital exchange of data across different health authorities, police structures, crisis team, health inspection, and so on and so forth. This is actually what's this disruption here, and many colleagues who are working in development context say, well, there is nothing innovative about this, or that's a classic digital solution to a challenge. But if this happens in a context where there is no single e-service in the country, where there is no data exchange within or across institutions, UNDP comes in with the solution of a modern platform coming from global knowledge and then customizing to the context, working with partners, bringing like fast capacities up to speed. And then I think we managed to have this real-time COVID-19 monitoring platform that combines data from so many sources. This, on the other side, gave an idea to, to build upon and have social mapping or geospatial mapping of vulnerable population groups within the canton. When you speak about, for example, elderly and other members who are maybe most vulnerable to the COVID. So how can we reach them out more effectively through digital data? So
Marina,
a lot of, yeah, okay, I'm closing.
If you don't mind, I mean, can I bridge between something that struck me, what Tina said, and with your experiences in Bosnia? Tina was saying the maintenance of our digital systems. We have to start looking at that from the get-go. Otherwise, we get these deserted digital places down the line. Have you, I mean, I don't mean to challenge you, but have you thought about the maintenance of your digital systems from the get-go, like Tina was recommending?
Absolutely. And we actually thought about that from the outset, because in the country, there are multiple mushrooming single point digital solutions, from one IT company, other IT company, which even increases the noise in the system and makes the challenge interoperability, interconnectivity, and then maintenance much more difficult. So what we did actually, together with our institutional stakeholders, we proposed, institutional framework through which, data protocols through which this new tool can actually be the new way of working for those institutions. And this is also embedded in the new, let's say, broader digital government 2.0 of the canton, which is an emerging concept. We hope to be approved by the cantonal government by the end of this year. So yes, system changing, and yes, sustaining the solutions that we bring through a more comprehensive perspective, as opposed to, oh, here is an app, here is a software, so let's close this gap and then we think about the
all right, excellent. Thanks so much for that reflection. Ladies and gentlemen, all the techies here, this is the time where we can consume a little bit what we have been hearing from the Independent Evaluation Office, as well as from the Bosnia-Herzegovina office. I mean, one other thing striking me, that we need to just start designing it for the most vulnerable, right? Don't design your system and then start to think about who should be using this and how these poor women somewhere rurally will access it, but start from there. I mean, I thought that was another striking observation, that I could just see how useful that is. The floor is open, ladies and gentlemen. I don't see a question in the chat yet, so we'll play it by ear. Anybody can use a hand or just open the mic and grill Tina and Marina a bit. Come on. Even the word troublemakers doesn't make you tick. Who can who has or a parallel experience in one of your countries that we work in, on either this maintenance part or the most vulnerable part or any other part of what we've heard? Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot make this session interactive. Huh? Trying, of course, but. Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah, there we go. Amit Rajit. Yeah, I thought it was going to be you.
I know. I was just wondering. I think the digital divide kind of resonates very closely, because I work primarily in Africa, and while there's a lot of very interesting stuff on innovations that are being done, and we have seen some of that also playing out in countries like Rwanda, for example. The the big challenge, I think, is the last mile hard to reach, both in terms of coverage, but also in terms of device and accessibility of equipment and device. And I think there is an argument that can be made, and some of the countries are doing it during the RRF proposals that we have seen. Some of the countries have proposed linking up closely with the private sector service providers to roll out to initiate rolling out of large programs based on digital technology. And before I end, I also wanted to say that I was in a conversation before, earlier part of the day, some other discussion, but there was this talk about not only just doing digital at the latest end of the spectrum, at the higher end of the spectrum, but also continuing to depend on the relatively older mobile, GSM-based technology, SMS, and that kind of interactive technology also there, where we can text out a question and you get a response back kind of thing. That may also be a way to go forward while we are stepping up on the game. Over.
Tina, what have you found about that last mile? I mean, in some way, we think our phones are a curse because we look at them day to day, in and out all the time. But then on the other hand, we want the whole world to have an iPhone and connectivity. What have you found in our evaluations on that front?
Yeah, I mean, it can really go both ways. So technology can be an enabler, and there were examples, especially from the Arab states, where literacy programs for women were bringing in IT knowledge at the same time. So they were kind of teaching two skills at the same time, and okay, maybe they didn't make a dent in the statistics on bringing illiteracy down just yet, but those kinds of things are happening, and they are catching two birds with one stone in a sense. But then on the other hand, digitalization can exacerbate inequalities, and the Secretary General just this year said that this was the new global divide, basically, digital divide, right? So it's really something that we have to look out for.
Sorry, now I see you again. Marina, how is that playing out in Bosnia? I mean, how have you done an assessment on this last mile? I mean, I know this is very close to Europe, of course, so I'm sure connectivity is great, but I'm sure there is still a last mile, particularly with those canton solutions. I mean, are we being inclusive there, or are we leaving out another 20–30% of people who will never benefit from any of it?
Yes, for us, the consideration of the digital divide was also extremely important. Actually, luckily, in the IT infrastructure and mobile internet penetration in the country is more than 95%. From this viewpoint, technically there are no risks, but then when we speak about digital literacy, digital ability of maybe access of persons with visual disabilities and so on and so forth, I think that's an extra mile. And actually at the moment UNDP, based on those experiences here, started a more detailed assessment of those and developing a new program that would look into the next generation digital governance in the country that would take also those absolutely in mind.
No, thank you for that perspective. 95%, that is Europe right there. There is a question in the chat from Sveta. I don't see you on the screen. Just start talking, please. There you are. Sveta.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Jan Thomas. Thanks a lot for a great presentation, Tina and Marina. So I have a very quick question. If any of the UNDP country offices have gone to the next orbit and trying to address the digital issues from a very strategic and a policy lens, especially in terms of you know, how the digital policy in the country offices is trying to tackle some of the, you know, the possible negative consequences of invasive technologies, because you're seeing a lot of artificial intelligence, you're seeing a lot of personal data that is coming in and not being used in an appropriate manner with all the security and the features. So are there any country officers who have gone to that orbit and trying to you know, work closely with the governments to address the privacy concerns, the personal data protection, and the ethical concerns related to, you know, the next generation digital issues? Thank you. Oh, I'm Sweta from Accelerator Lab India. Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself.
Welcome, Sweta. Tina.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sweta. Yes, this is a really important point, and it's captured in lesson 2 about the meaningful connectivity. So basically, I would say look at Bangladesh, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, also Serbia. Their UNDP supported roadmaps for digital future, or sometimes it's called a national ecosystem of innovation also. So kind of coming really in, as you said, from a strategic level, to look at what kind of enabling framework needs to be in place, first of all, to bring out innovation and the troublemakers that we spoke about, right? The local disruptors and so forth. But then also how to ensure that data is protected, and that from an ethical perspective, we're not suddenly finding ourselves supporting work that is actually untenable and bringing huge problems, right? So that's an important one. And to link with what Amitrajit said, the private sector clearly is very, very important there, because the networks and data are typically owned by the private sector. So when UNDP supports these kinds of roadmaps or digital strategies at the national level, it's very important to bring the private sector on board, because yeah, without them, this typically cannot actually work.
Oscar.
Yes, on the ethical consideration, let me add that you know, it's important to ask who benefits from the data, who produces the data, and who benefits. And when designing this new digital approaches, it's important for UNDP to make sure that the people who are providing the data do also benefit from these systems, so that this can shorten feedback loops and be encouraged to improve the quality of services that they may be receiving or not. So as Tina said, these approaches that take the ethical dimension into the design are extremely important for us as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the ethical question is a good one to land on for today. I see there is some more questions in the chat, but we'll definitely deal with those. Thanks again, the Evaluation Office, for this whole series of inspiring and short, right? These are very readable, ladies and gentlemen. Just go in there, 10 pages, 12 pages, I think. Usually, I haven't seen this particular one. Thanks to Tina. Thanks for the experiences from Bosnia and Herzegovina. Ladies and gentlemen, you were a bit timid today. I mean, this is Q&A, right? So please, tomorrow, don't just sit there and wait for me to fill the space. Tomorrow, we're talking about what, Diana? I'm sure these people are interested, right?
Absolutely. Tomorrow is Tech Thursday, so we're hearing about Chile's COVID-19 social survey, overlapping impacts and household strategies.
Chile.
It's a good one.
Chile. Country? Chile? About Chile?
Yes.
Oh, right. That's great. That's great. That's far away. I mean, that would be exciting. So, ladies and gentlemen, make some trouble between now and then and tell us all about it, right? We need to be part of the troublemakers, otherwise nothing will happen in this world. So take a lead, make some trouble, and be back tomorrow, 8 o'clock Brooklyn time. Thanks so much to our resource persons. Thanks for being here, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye, colleagues.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Au revoir.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.